So the next topic is a trophic level, and this is probably a term you've heard before. So what is a trophic level? It describes how energy and nutrients are captured and moved through an ecosystem. So each level describes what the organisms at that level eat, basically. So the first level we usually think about are the autotrophs, or primary producers, which you can see over in the diagram. And autotrophs, or primary producers, they acquire their energy via photosynthesis. There are some other autotrophs that do something slightly different, but they're getting their energy from the environment, and mostly through photosynthesis. And so they're turning energy from sunlight into sugars, into usable kind of carbohydrates. So the other group of things are called heterotrophs, and that's what we are. And they're organisms that acquire energy by eating other organisms. So they can't make their own food like autotrophs can. They have to eat something. So classic example of autotrophs or primary producers are plants, and classic examples of heterotrophs are animals. Another word for a heterotroph is a consumer, which you'll see is a term used on the diagram. So we classify different types of organisms based on the food they eat. So herbivores eat plants, like deer. Carnivores eat meat, like wolves. Omnivores eat both plants and meat, like bears. Scavengers eat things that are already dead. They eat carcasses, like crows. Detritivores tend to eat dead plant material, like ants. And then decomposers are things that break down dead material, like bacteria and fungi. So we can see primary producers, or autotrophs, are typically the basis of the food chain. Then we have primary consumers, which are the herbivores. Secondary consumers are the organisms that eat herbivores, like carnivores or parasites. And then we can get tertiary consumers. And then there's usually a separate trophic level that's used for breaking down of dead material, like decomposers, scavengers, and detritivores. Now, if we put all that together into a large network for an entire ecosystem, you get food chains and food webs. So a food chain is simply a linear progression where you have one group of, or one type of organism at each trophic level. Food webs are closer to what reality looks like, and they look like a giant mess, basically, because most things don't eat only one thing. Most heterotrophs, or consumers, have multiple food sources. Some things eat from multiple trophic levels, and it can be very messy. Ecology is not simple. It tends to be extremely complicated, and this food web kind of shows that. You can see the number of different trophic interactions going on here is very large. Energy pyramid looks at the amount of energy at each trophic level. And not all the energy from each trophic level is passed on to the next. So some is used for different metabolic processes. So like when we're growing, some of the energy in our food goes into our body as growth. But some of it gets used up as we use up energy to move around and find our own food and run. Some of it's lost by heat if you're a mammal or a bird, because you're constantly trying to keep your body at the same temperature. So your body's generating heat. And so that energy is lost and isn't available to somebody or to an organism that's going to eat you. And we have this thing called the 10% rule. And it's that about 10% of the energy and biomass are transferred from one trophic level to the next. So if we have 10 kilograms of clover, only, or 100 kilograms of clover, excuse me, only 10 kilograms of that will be turned into rabbit, because the rabbits, even if it eats 100 kilograms of clover, it's blowing some of that energy on running around and looking for food and mating and all kinds of different activities. And then the predators have even less energy available to them. So as we go up the food chain, there tends to be fewer individuals, fewer biomass of each of these trophic levels. So top carnivores tend to be relatively rare in the ecosystem.